Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
This is the Locker Room Podcast.
And I can't wait to introduce my partner tonight, the 10-year NFL veteran, former he's not former, he's always a BCS national champion from The Ohio State. He's Ben Hartsock. I am Kirk Morrison, 8-year NFL veteran and NFL college football analyst here on ESPN. And we got so much to get into tonight, Ben. So much to get into. I hope you're ready because we got to discuss some injuries. We got comebacks. We got last-second drives. We got drop passes to win games. We got so much to get into. How was your football Sunday, by the way, Ben Hartsock?
My football Sunday is just as good as it could possibly be. You know, as a former player, everybody asks, do you miss the game? Do you miss – there's always things that you miss as a player. But I sat in a comfy chair with no stress of being hurt, which is a hot topic right now. I had some Sonic for dinner and, no stress. No stress that tomorrow I was going to get fired. So it was a tremendous day of football for me.
He said no stress at all. I understand, but you did mention the word injury, and it was a injury-plagued Sunday today. Hey, before we even get to what we got going on, you can reach us on Twitter at Kirk Morrison, or my Twitter handle at Ben_Hartsock at Twitter.com. Also at ESPN Radio, tweet the 1-800-Flowers, Twitter.com feed, ESPN Radio. But we turn to the phone lines. We're going to I got to talk to my guy over in New York to get the latest of what's been going on. I called it the Injury Plague Sunday, and it was injury plagued in New York as the New York Giants took on the Los Angeles Chargers. See, I always mess up when I say that. The Los Angeles Chargers traveled to New York to take on the New York Giants, and it was the battle of 0-4 teams. Somebody had to win, but at what cost would the win or the loss be? And we turn to the phone lines now, and we talk to our ESPN NFL Nation Giants reporter, Jordan Renown. And Jordan, I think, look, we know that the Chargers beat the New York Giants 27-22. But the biggest story is Odell Beckham Jr. What's the latest on OBJ's ankle?
Yeah, I mean, he has the Giants called it a fractured left ankle. I mean, it's the ankle, leg-ish area. I mean, he broke his leg, essentially. So surgery is the likely destination that this is headed. I would expect it to go in that direction. We'll see. They're getting a second opinion. They're going to go check, I believe he has an MRI scheduled tomorrow. So they're going to do more tests, but look, the likelihood is that Odell Beckham's season is over. And so is the Giants' season. I mean, they're 0-5 right now. And look, not only is Odell Beckham now injured, and he has a serious injury, Dwayne Harris, who's another one of their wide receivers, he's out for the year, according to our Adam Schefter, with a fractured foot as well. And then Sterling Shepard and Brandon Marshall both suffered ankle injuries as well. So now we're talking, even if they have missed, 2-week injuries or whatever with these sprained ankles, they're going to Denver next week. Sunday night game in Denver, and 4 of their top 5 wide receivers are probably not going to be available. So that's Jordan, the situation the Giants are in.
To that end, Jordan, where do the Giants go now? I mean, they were coming into this game 0-4, coming out 0-5, and there were holes all over that team. And now you lose the entire starting wide receiver core. So where does Ben McAdoo start?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, for the short term, they'll pick up a couple guys that were in camp and with the team the last couple of years. Tavares King is a guy I would be very surprised if he's not on the roster by tomorrow. He's sitting out there. He was on the roster all last year. So the short term, they're going to do stuff like that. But, I mean, the question now is, what do the Giants do long term, right? This season's all but lost. You could basically throw this season's gone. Now they have a 37-year-old quarterback with potentially a really high draft pick, right? So now that's what's going to come into play here. What did the Giants do? What's the move for them to make going forward and the future of this franchise? Because what we see right now is that this isn't anywhere near a Super Bowl team, right? So what are you going to do with a 37-year-old quarterback if you don't have anywhere near a Super Bowl team? So I think that's what the Giants are going to have to sit down over the next, I don't know, there's still 12 weeks left in the season, over the next 12 weeks in the season, and said, hey, what's the future? What's the direction that this franchise is going to go now? Because, they put together this team, and this team obviously isn't anywhere near good enough. They're sitting right now at 0-5 after 5 weeks of the season.
Jordan Renown, ESPN NFL Giants reporter, joined the locker room here. Kirk Morrison, Ben Hartsock. Jordan, I'm looking around, and before the season, if I said 5 weeks in, a New York team was 3-2 and one was 0-5. I think we would say the Jets would have been 0-5 and the Giants 3-2. From your vantage point, how was the fan base, the organization? How are they handling right now 0-5? Is it wholesale changes? What's the feeling right now?
Yeah, all I'm hearing is get rid of Jerry Reese, get rid of the general manager, get rid of Ben McAdoo, the head coach. We need to start over. We need to get rid of these guys. People are really upset about the offense and Ben McAdoo's offense in particular. I think that is something that really sticks out. And so it's really like a split, but there's just, as you can imagine, at 0-5 for a team, that's the thing, is that this team, people had high hopes for this team. The Giants fans were talking potential Super Bowl, and now they're talking after 5 weeks of I think the biggest Giants fans are pretty much have relented to the fact that this is a totally lost season. Wow. And now they have to recalibrate. So, yeah, there's a lot of angry people, and the finger pointing has already started from the fans when Jerry Reese and Ben McAdoo are, 1 and 1A on the hit list for the fans right now.
Well, so with this team right now, with the short term, the Giants are they've got to try to stop the bleeding. But looking down the road a little bit further, who do you identify on this team, whether it be coaching staff, whether it be young players? We all know that Eli Manning, quarterbacks are always the leader of a team, but Eli, it's not really his cup of tea. When he's his best, he has people around him who are kind of the faces of the press conferences. So, and plus he's a 37-year-old quarterback. So who are the Giants looking at on that roster to say, okay, we're going to circle the wagons around this guy?
Yeah, well, the main guys are guys like Landon Collins is a big building block for them, and then the secondary. And you're talking about Damon Harrison has been a leader of this team. He's not that especially young right now, but he's still got some years left. He's a guy, just absolutely dominates on the defensive line. And then on offense, and this is really part of the problem, is the only guy they have is Odell Beckham Jr. So they're going to need some more pieces on that offense to really sort of build around. And, the interesting part with Beckham is now what they have to figure out his future, right?
Exactly.
Now, obviously, he's a tremendous player. The Giants would love to have him back, but, they're going to sign him long term. They've said this publicly. But now he's got it right. This is a part of the dilemma is that when do they pay him now? That was the dilemma beforehand. But now are you really going to go and give him a new contract before he comes back on the field and shows that he's healthy and fully recovered? No, probably not, right? So now it's like, okay, what's Odell Beckham going to have to do to get paid at this point? And how willing is he going to be to go do that going forward? Because, is he going to have to go and get back on the field and show another great season in order to earn that money that basically he showed he was worth over the previous 4 seasons? Or do the Giants say, hey, we've seen what you could do. We're confident you can come back and pay him sometime within the next year or so. So that's going to be the tricky spot moving forward here because he's going to be dealing almost certainly with a long-term injury, and you have to wait to see when he comes back, right? And how he comes back and what he looks like when he comes back. And if everything is on track with his recovery and all that stuff. So I think that's the real question with this Giants team now moving forward.
Last question. You mentioned Eli Manning a little bit earlier, but what is the future possibly looking like? You mentioned 0-5. We know Eli's not. You got to pull him off the field. He's going to continue to start games, but is there a point that you possibly can think, if this team is just that bad this year, that they possibly can draft a quarterback next year, and what some are saying maybe one of the best quarterback drafts we've had in a long time?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you're sitting there and there's a quarterback you really like and think is a franchise quarterback that's within your reach, it's hard for me to say, for any team to sit back there and say, no, we're good. We have a 37-year-old quarterback. If you know that, so there has to be something that if they're in that position, depending on how poorly this season goes, and right now it's going pretty poorly. Right now they're one of three three winless teams. So if you're drafting that high, I mean, you have to consider it. It's just something you can't ignore if you have that high a draft pick and that opportunity sits in your face. I mean, think about his brother, right? The Indianapolis Colts. I mean, it was a little different because he was dealing with an injury, Peyton Manning at the time. But still, that opportunity came, and Andrew Luck was sitting there. They had the number one pick. It would have been foolish, even if Peyton Manning was healthy at that point, for them to turn down that opportunity, because when those guys come around, now I'm not saying anyone is Andrew Luck in this draft, but if they recognize a guy that they think is that caliber, is going to be not surefire, because nothing is surefire, but a really good chance to be a real franchise quarterback, it's going to be hard for the Giants not to do it. I mean, even though Eli Manning has 2 years left on his deal, they can get out of it if they wanted to, but. So I think that's going to be a big question here going forward. Are the Giants looking at whichever one of those quarterbacks people determine is going to be one of the top picks if they're up there?
Well, we shall see. Hey, Jordan, I appreciate the time, and I guess go get some stretching in and bring those cleats, because I think the Giants are going to have some tryouts tomorrow for wideouts, so you get ready for that. All right?
I mean, between the playing wide receiver, and I didn't think in week 5 I'd be sitting here talking to you about the Giants possibly drafting one of the top quarterbacks, but that's how far we've fallen already in 5 weeks of the NFL season. It's pretty spectacular.
All right, man. We'll catch up with you soon, Jordan.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
That was Jordan Renown, our ESPN NFL Nation Giants reporter, joining us. And that interview brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Wow, it's a lot of information there on the Giants. We'll dissect that information, but some other games throughout the day that we still got to get back to, talk to. I got to get your take on it, Ben. I give you my takes on it. And I think starting off, there's another team that's kind of up and coming. They had a big win at New England last week. They go on the road to Detroit this week. That's right, the Panthers. They moved to 4-1. Cam Newton had a day. But that wasn't the biggest storyline coming out of that win over the Lions. I'll tell you what the biggest storyline should be. We'll discuss that next here on The Locker Room. Kirk Morrison, Ben Hartsock on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
It's The Locker Room here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Kirk Morrison, Ben Hartsock here. That was the Panthers radio network on the call as the Carolina Panthers go into Detroit, and they take care of business. They win 27-24. It's time for Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless brought to you by the best phones, best networks, no contracts. Straight Talk Wireless. We got to get right into it just because Cam Newton had himself a day today, and I think a lot of people didn't expect that. There was a lot going on this week, obviously. I don't want to have to revisit much of it because it was more about Cam Newton and his comments, who many people saw was deemed sexist, as Jordan Rodriguez, the reporter, asking him about the routes of one Devin Funchess and the physicality, and Cam replied with, routes? It's just funny hearing a female talk about routes. Well, we know that got him in a little bit of hot water. He lost his endorsement deal with Dannon, which was actually scooped up by Dak Prescott today. That announcement was made today. But he still had a football game to be played, and today he handled his business and went out and Here's some sound just from some of his teammates. Here's Julius Peppers on what he saw from Cam's performance today.
He handles that stuff in stride. He takes everything in stride. It wasn't really much of a distraction for the team. I don't know about him, how he handled it internally, but it looks like he's doing well. It looks like everybody put that to the side. He moved forward.
He moved forward. And I think another thing that moving forward, which caught the attention of many people today, Ben, was that Cam Newton on his hat wore a pin. And it was a pin of basically symbolizing women empowerment. And he wore it because he knew people would see it and understand it. And I think he's trying to do a little bit of damage control. But here's a little bit from Cam on why he repped the pin on his hat.
To kind of hint a notion to all the women, hardworking women. Did my homework on her and her impact on World War II, and not only her but all the women and females who played a big impact in creating equipment for World War II. And it was a symbolization for inferior and strong women, and I just wanted to hint towards. So it was a lesson learned for me this whole week. My sarcasm, trying to give somebody a kind of a compliment, turned in ways I never would have even imagined. But, like I say, I'm a man of God and a man that has an unbelievable supporting cast from fans, great teammates, great coaching, as well as family members and friends, man, that kept me up all this week. And, I just wanted to have a little notion or a shout out to, all the strong women around.
Yeah, that pin was Rosie Riveter. It was the pin, the lady he was talking about. It was more for women empowerment and what they mean. That was just one thing. But at the end of the day, we said it again. He had to play a game, and he had to be ready. Despite all the chaos, the noise that around him this week, he went out there and performed. Here's how he felt coming out of that game.
To kind of hint a notion, we're moving forward, and, we're just getting ready for Thursday now. At the end of the day, you still have to be a professional about certain things. And, with me in the preparation, it couldn't stop. So I couldn't feel sorry for myself knowing that certain things took place that, that was out of my control. But at the end of the day, you live and you learn.
You live and you learn. Look, Ben, you understand. Look, there's always going to be some things that go on distraction-wise, maybe within your family, or maybe it's, stuff going on within the team. It's about playing. But from just listening to Cam Newton, are you turning the page on it? Are you moving past this, or are you still possibly hung up on his comments from this week?
So I was a teammate of Cam his first 3 seasons. I played in Carolina from 2011, 2013, and so I've watched him mature and try to grow into the franchise quarterback that he's become. And the struggle that Cam has is he trips over himself a lot. Nobody denies his ability on the field. He's one of these guys that he's a different class of human. I mean, he's a different, bigger than everybody else and better and all of those types of things. But, man, he can put his foot in his mouth. and this is – I think the Russillo show has done that once or twice where they have a compilation of Cam kind of tripping over himself with different phrases. And this one got him in a lot of trouble.
Right.
I like the pin that he put. I think it was kind of funny. It almost looked like he read about it 30 seconds before he walked on stage so he could go up there to say that.
Right.
But I do like that it is a nod like, I'm sorry, I screwed this up. I think it's a little bit bigger play on the culture that we live in right now, that what he said, nobody defends what he said. But we do live in a society right now that if you do trip up, somebody is going to take you to the cleaners over it. And he lost that Dannon deal right out of the gate. I mean, they pulled the plug on him. It was almost like they were looking for a way out.
Yeah, I think so too. They were looking, and they couldn't wait to pull that rug right up under his feet and give it to the next quarterback, Dak Prescott, another up-and-coming guy. But you know what? You live and you learn. I think Cam is going to learn from this. He'll be better from this. And I really believe, listening to his comments, that I don't believe he intended for it to be sexist by any means. I think he was really just saying, wow, I don't hear women talk about routes like that. And it's just like I said, you got to be careful with how you word this. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. A lot of big-name players went down with injuries today. What would their road to recovery look like? We'll discuss that next here on The Locker Room on ESPN Radio.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Just going over some quick scores here because some teams came out and took care of business today. The Bengals went and defended home turf, beating the Bills 20-16. The Jets, that's right, the New York Football Jets, everybody, is now they're 3-2. And people say they were tanking. I'm telling you, they're not tanking. They're 3-2. And a job well done for Todd Bowles as they're now 17-14 win over the Cleveland Browns today. We were talking earlier, the Carolina Panthers taking care of business, going on the road, defeating the Detroit Lions. I think our game of the day had to be down in Dallas as the Green Bay Packers go on the road to Dallas and beat the Cowboys 35-31. Outstanding job by one Aaron Rodgers as his team goes out in a game-winning touchdown drive at the end. His pass to Devontae Adams made it 35-31, an unbelievable comeback win for the Green Bay Packers. But the biggest news is the injuries, like I mentioned, Ben. And it's two injuries in particular, two of the game's biggest stars. It's Odell Beckham Jr. and his ankle, and we'll get more info on that tomorrow. As we had earlier on, Jordan Vernon, the ESPN NFL Nation Giants reporter, he said that there will be another MRI done tomorrow on OBJ's ankle to figure out will he be gone for the year, which many people are fearing. So that's one star that we are having to watch and focus on tomorrow. The other star is J.J. Watt, and J.J. Watt was injured in the first half of the game tonight versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Actually, the Kansas City Chiefs went on to win the game 42-34 over the Houston Texans, but J.J. Watt has been a tibial plateau fracture is what they're diagnosing J.J. Watt with, tibial plateau fracture. They will know more tomorrow as they get more information on, is this a season-ending thing? Is it just a couple weeks? Is it just half a season? We'll get more on that. But I think I'll start this one off, Ben, just asking you. You've obviously had injuries throughout your career. I've had an injury. But when you see these types of injuries that can change not just a defense or an offense, but that can change the way a team can go out there and compete. You know, when I hear OBJ injured, what comes to mind for you?
Well, injury is such a broad word, and
right.
We're talking about injuries that are going to change a season. But even bigger than that, you look at Devontae Adams a couple weeks ago, carted off the field on a stretcher, and injuries that you start wondering about, effects for the rest of their life, and it really. I'm kind of taken aback right now because I was watching and excited about this week's NFL games and the parity across the NFL, but you just see across the league there are injuries everywhere. And, the magnitude of some of these injuries can be heavy. I've been on the field as a college athlete. Penn State, a gentleman, Adam Taliaferro, running back, was paralyzed. And that's something that it takes the sport and makes you realize what we're doing and the weight of all of that. That is the heavyweight injuries. Right. And then you have these injuries like J.J. Watt. He's had so many injuries that you're starting to wonder, what's his career going to look like? What's his legacy going to look like? He's dominant when he's healthy, but here we go again, another season for J.J. Watt on injured reserve.
Yeah. I want to stop you right there because I had a question that came up, and this is for even out there, our listeners as well. J.J. Watt, do you consider him right now? Is he a Hall of Famer in your eyes?
No, I don't. I think right. you have to have. I think you have to have a bigger body of work. And I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but he spent more than a couple seasons on injured reserve.
Right.
And so talent non-realized is just potential. That's nothing. Nothing ever comes of that. And so I need to see more from him.
Yeah, and that's the question I'm having because 2012, 2014, 2015, he was the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year. You would say that is a dominant reign, right, for a player. And when you look at the Hall of Fame, it's when a guy is dominant in his area for a period of time. And is that period of time too little for J.J. Watt, or do you want to see more? He's a 4-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro, and I'm looking at these, and I'm like, and he's led the NFL in sacks for 2 years. But if the injuries start to pile up and we don't get the J.J. Watt that we saw for that brief 3 to 4 year span, is he considered a Hall of Famer?
Yeah, he's a guy that burns bright, a star that burns bright but dies early. That's a tough thing. You look at Bob Sanders, that was a teammate of mine with the Indianapolis Colts, Defensive Player of the Year, was a tremendously talented, strong safety, but was injured his entire career. Never was able to reach his full level of dominance because he never could live to play another down. And I think that these questions are going to present themselves now if J.J. Watt does prove to be out yet for another season.
Yeah, we got to hear on that. Here's a little sound of the actual play in which J.J. Watt was in there. Here's the Sports Radio 610 on the call, the Texans radio network.
Kelsey lined up right. Smith gets the snap. Here comes pressure. Smith throwing downfield, and it's incomplete. Smith took a shot. Brennan Scarlett coming up the middle, and J.J. Watt is down. Slow to get up. He's at the 25-yard line face down. Texans get off the field on third down, but this could be extremely costly.
And I'm not sure that he was hit, Mark. He was just in a pass rush. And just went down.
Yeah, he just went down, and now we go to Houston. Bill O'Brien, head coach of the Texans, he's at the podium.
And the next guys are going to have to step up and play. We have to do a good job coaching and scheming. But that's the National Football League. Guys get hurt, and you have to. The next guy in the team meeting room at that position needs to step up.
Bill Alex Smith, with his mobility, he just keeps buying time, and it seems really difficult to solve that. Yeah,
he's really good at extending plays. He got outside the pocket. I thought, that was one of the keys to the game. We had to try to keep him in the pocket. Obviously, we didn't accomplish that. I'm not sure what he rushed for, but he ran for a lot of yards. He's a great player. He's playing at a high level right now. Give the Chiefs a lot of credit. They did a much better job than we did tonight.
What did you think about what Deshaun did?
What's that?
What did you think about the job Deshaun did?
Look, I think every game is a learning experience for him, and I think I really think he's a excellent young quarterback, and I thought he kept competing right to the end. He's a great kid. He's a lot of fun to coach, and he's obviously got a great future.
With Tyreek Hill, was there some thought about maybe not kicking to him at all, and kind of just your thoughts on what's going on with him?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. Sometimes, we definitely had that plan, not sometimes, all the time. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, Aaron, but he's a great player, and, he's probably the best punt returner in the league. He's just really good at it.
You said you just got off, but is there a lot of concern about Whitney's injury, or is there any kind of prognosis?
I would say there's concern. There's concern, yep.
That was Bill O'Brien, the head coach of the Texans, and Whitney he's referring to in that question that was asked to him. Whitney Merciless, he also went down with an injury. He seems to be a little bit more serious. They'll run some more tests tomorrow. But we're talking about two defensive stalwarts for the Houston Texans on a team that you thought was just now getting into a groove, a new, quarterback in Deshaun Watson, who he says is getting better and better each game, like he just mentioned in the press conference. But it's one thing to lose one guy, and he says the next man has to step up, Ben. But you lose two guys, Ben. That's like that Mike Vrabel, a long-time, NFL player and now the defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. Like, what do? You lose two guys like that. You just can't. Those types of players just don't grow on trees.
Yeah, I think you said what I was going to bring up. I think this is going to be a huge test for Mike Vrabel. Yes. Mike Vrabel, a tremendously well-respected, longtime NFL football player, now has quickly climbed the ranks to where he's the defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans, has been interviewed for head coaching positions, will eventually be a head coach. This is where defensive coaches, this is where coaches make the money that they have to make, because he's just been handed a big flaming bag of you-know-what, and he's got to figure out how to make that thing work. I think he's just going to, knowing Mike Vrabel, he's just simply going to be next man up. Mike Vrabel's from the New England Patriots lineage of coaching and being a player there, and so that philosophy is one that you don't blink. It's next man up. I think that Benardrick McKinney, the linebacker, is leading tackler for the Texans right now. I think it's going to be a time for him it's time for him to put on his big boy pants chance, and now he's going to be put in a leadership role.
Oh, he's going to be in a big-time leadership role. But I presented the question, is J.J. Watt a Hall of Famer right now? And I only bring that up because we saw last year he ended on IR. The big possibility he could be on IR again. We'll know. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776 is our number. We're going to hear a little bit of Eli post-game having to deal with the possible Odell Beckham Jr. injury, and then everybody pretty much on his wide receiving group. The injuries is taking place and what the challenges that face one Eli Manning. And then we're going to get to your phone calls and still the game of the day, the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. And man, did it come down to the wire. We'll discuss that next here on The Locker Room. It's Kirk Morrison, Ben Hartsock on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Let's go right to the phone lines. Let's go to Houston. We're joined by DeAnthony Thomas, wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. And DeAnthony, I saw you had the moves tonight. You got to the outside on that fly sweep series. Tell me what happened when that ball got into your hands.
Just trusty. We've been practicing, on a lot of different, different plays where I'm in. You got 10 in the game also. So that's a lot of, it makes the defense wonder, where's the ball going. And it's just a great, crackback block by 10. And me just, finding that end zone and getting there.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah. One thing I want to ask is the Chiefs, you guys are the only unbeaten right now. You guys are in the driver's seat. Tell me, you guys have been with this place before where people, even as much success as you guys have had as a team, people still kind of doubt the Kansas City Chiefs. How do you guys battle that in that locker room?
I feel like we don't even worry about, what people are saying about us. We just go out there every week and practice and we work hard. And I feel like it happened back in training camp. Guys, trusting the process, going hard and stuff like that. And I feel like it's showing. And we just taking one game at a time. And, we're going to celebrate this win and then just get ready for next week.
DeAnthony, you went to Oregon. You're very electric there. But I swear, when I watch this offense of the Kansas City Chiefs, it feels like I'm watching a college offense. Does it feel that way at practice? Does it feel like that way in the games?
Yeah, I feel like we haven't even got to where we want to be. We just testing the waters and stuff like that. So we just have to just stay focused and just keep going at it, keep grinding.
DeAnthony, tell me, as you guys go into this stretch of the season, how do you guys maintain the focus? What is the message that Coach Reed is sending to you guys? You're heading into the meat of your schedule, where you continue on the path you're going, good things are happening, but it's easy to fall off and trend down. So how do you guys battle that as you go into this meaty part of the schedule?
I feel like it's on us right now. Like I said, we just go out and practice, hard every week and just, preparing ourselves for these big games. And, we do also do a big job of, recovering our bodies and making sure we're ready to go every week. So just taking one game at a time and staying focused and just playing as a team.
Going into Houston tonight, a difficult team that you were going up against, but you guys look pretty good throughout. And then I looked at you on the special teams aspect of it. Was that the advantage you guys felt going into this game, special teams wise, that you guys would have the edge?
Yeah, that's what I feel like, our team is about. We have all three phases that's strong, whether it's on offense, defense, or special team. We have those three phases where we always just go out there and give it our all. So we just like I said, it's all about preparing. We prepare ourselves every week to just go out there and, get these wins.
One thing that as a fan, as an analyst, I get almost tired of the constant questioning of Alex Smith. Talk a little bit about your quarterback. Tell us something that maybe the normal fans don't understand about your quarterback, because he never seems to be discussed in those truly elite circles. But I think that his body of work speaks otherwise.
Definitely, I feel like Alex. He's a great, he's a great leader, for our team, for our offense, and as a receiver corps, we got a lot of young receivers. So he just keeps us focused, and even with the line, he's just making sure everybody's on the same page. And like I said, in practice, we prepare ourselves to go out there and make it happen. And Alex is very poised, and to be honest, he's one of the best quarterbacks out there, and I feel like he's just going to keep proving himself every week and going out there and working hard.
DeAnthony Thomas, wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, join us. And look, last question here, DeAnthony. You were a rookie at one point, but now I feel like you just got in the league yesterday, but you're a seasoned veteran. And I say that because Kareem Hunt, all he's done since he's been in this league so far, and it's only a small sample size, 5 games. But what have you seen from him that has made his transition seem pretty seamlessly from college at Toledo to now being here with the Chiefs in the NFL?
First of all, I feel like his coach, Eric Bieniemy, Bieniemy is one of the best coaches, running back coaches in the league right now. And, he prepares his guys, all of them, 35, 27, all those guys that run that football. He prepares those guys so well. And, he makes sure he gives them, all the tips on, whether the blitz is coming or whether they got what hold it is. So just their preparation is nice. And, seeing them go hard in practice and finish it 20 and 40 yards, down the field in practice, just getting them ready, getting them in shape to go out here and execute. So it's just been great, and they're just going to continue to do that and work hard.
All right, man. Hey, we appreciate the time here on the Locker Room. You have a safe trip back to Kansas City, and good luck next week versus the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Thank you.
That was DeAnthony Thomas, wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a 10-yard touchdown run early in the game. And look, Ben, when you got weapons like that, I mean, I don't know where DeAnthony falls on the totem pole, but you got Kelsey, you got Hill, Conley. I mean, they got the different running backs. You got the quarterback. I mean, you got some weapons when you got Kansas City, right? Kansas City's got weapons.
Yeah, I think I alluded to it, that I think that every year it seems like Kansas City's in this position to where on paper everything lines up that you don't really see a weak spot. They're playing strong on defense. Their pass rush is strong. They've got a quarterback that's playing top-notch football. But for whatever reason, they don't ever seem to be discussed as legitimate contenders. One thing that DeAnthony mentioned there that I thought that was really insightful was the progress of Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
He referenced running back coach Eric Bieniemy, a former Colorado great.
But he's got to do it, though. You know what? We're going to get into more of that. We're going to get into more of the Aaron Rodgers throwing darts from earlier.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
As the Green Bay Packers took care of business, they go into Dallas and they beat the Dallas Cowboys today 35-31. And that play at the end was a game-winning touchdown drive. Too much time left on the clock, way too much time left on the clock for Aaron Rodgers. Enough time for him to go down. 1 minute and 2 seconds is all that it took for him to go down with a go-ahead score to beat the Dallas Cowboys. And this is what people are considering a rivalry, because last year in the divisional round, the Green Bay Packers, similar fate. They go out and they beat the Cowboys, but this time it was a pass from Rodgers to Jared Cook, which set up a Mason Crosby field goal, which put the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship game. We know that they ended up losing to the Atlanta Falcons, who ended up going on to the Super Bowl. But here's a little bit of Aaron Rodgers and definitely what he saw on that final play.
No, I was gonna call another play, but Tay came back and said, "Call it again." He said, "Yeah, he just throw, with his eyes, he just said, throw a better ball." So I just switched formation up a little bit to put some speed at 3 with Randall at 3 to the strength. And was thinking about going back there unless Heath got some width in his drop. They played 55 again, which is 2-man. Just put a better throw on it. He made a great catch.
Ben, I love football talk.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably know what he meant. But just listen to that. He wanted speed at 3, so he put Randall Cobb, a speedier receiver that can get you the clear out. Them playing the 55, which is the 2-man, is that he knew he had a man-to-man underneath with the safety over the top who had to stand in between everybody. So he would get the one-on-one man-to-man coverage on the outside, and that was Devontae Adams on Jordan Lewis, the rookie. So I think I like that matchup for him. And then it wasn't just that throw to win the game. He had a nice little scramble in that fourth quarter, just showing some of the elusiveness that he does possess. Here's Aaron Rodgers on that little scramble in the fourth quarter.
Well, their main coverage in that in the sequence, other than the first play of the 2-minute, was 2-man. So they played a 3-down line with the 2 backers, either spying or taking the back. That's why we were able to hit a run on them. in that situation, we had a good play called, bad leverage on the backside with Marty. Kind of open on the left a little bit. I tried to squeeze through, felt like I was getting grabbed. Once I was able to get loose, it was about getting the first down and getting out of bounds. My eyes got kind of big there for a second, thinking about cutting it back inside, but went out of bounds there, the smart play, and gave us a chance to take a couple shots in the end zone.
Ben, I don't know about you, but if Aaron Rodgers had a film academy, I would sign up. I want to go and just sit and watch film with him. The way he just diagnosed and just he knows what everybody's doing. He knows what everybody's capable of. When he says, Marty, he's talking about Martellus Bennett, saying, lost a little leverage. So losing a little leverage, I know I had to get up and I took off and I could have cut it back and got some more yards, but I said, no, I know when the journey's over, I get out of bounds and move on to the next play. Everybody else is at an college entry level, and he's in a master's program. He's working on his doctorate right now.
Yeah, that was the phrasing that came to mind as soon as he started speaking. This is doctorate level football discussion, and it's great. It takes me back. I played with some tremendous quarterbacks over the course of my career. I was a teammate of Peyton Manning's, was a teammate of Matt Ryan's, even spent a cup of coffee with Tom Brady in New England. And so when you play with players of that caliber, you can't overestimate the importance, the sensation of having someone like that in your huddle. It changes. It makes you that much better. And so it's two aspects. One, his absolute mastery of the game. Yeah. It's easy to listen to that and see this guy is playing from a whole different deck of cards. So he has an absolute authority, so that when they're in that situation where the pressure is at its most high, he's able to relax and simply find the nuance to be able to put that team in the right situation. And then the other aspect of what he does so well is in the moment. It's one thing to be able to process and to come up with the play, but then to execute in that moment. Right. That scramble late in the game where he was able to read and diagnose in hundredths of a second, and then be able to elude the rusher to the left, and then have the foresight to think to get out of bounds, to keep the clock. There are so many things going on that's why there are only 32 people on the planet that can play NFL quarterback.
Yeah, but they still keep trying to find the next one. They're trying to find who can be the next Aaron Rodgers, because they don't fall from trees. They don't grow on trees. You just can't go to the local grocery store and hopefully they're in today. No, he is truly a special thing, and I think I don't want to be prisoners of the moment, but I think some people watch today's performance and really marvel at it. One person in particular is our own Ryan Clark, our ESPN NFL analyst. He joined Nicole and Max on the 8 p.m. Sports Center. Here's a little of what our Ryan Clark had to say about Rodgers and his performance tonight.
He's the best quarterback ever. Because, if we did, so if we were just putting things we want, characteristics we want in a quarterback, physical traits, right? If he was like, hey, long ball, of all time, you'd rank him in the top 5. Accuracy, of all time, you'd rank him in the top 5. Throwing the ball on the run, you'd rank him in the top 5. So as we would go down these quarterbacks and rank their physical attributes, there would be no quarterback that finished with a higher total ranking than Aaron Rodgers. We were just talking about what they can do with the football in their hands on the field.
Wow. High praise from one Ryan Clark, best ever. I think you've played with some great quarterbacks. I've played with some great ones, but I think another guy who doesn't get any of his just due. His team sits at 5-0. His name is Alex Smith. He's at the podium right now. Here's a little Alex Smith at the podium.
Kind of beyond that.
Alex, you heard a lot of third and long tonight. How much does that reflect just more trust in your guys, going downfield more in that situation? What's happening there?
I mean, a lot of different things. Felt like, no question, it starts with the plan. I thought we had a lot of good stuff in. A lot of favorable matchups we felt really good about all over the field. And I felt like everybody had a hand in it on a lot of those third downs. Certainly, any time you talk about third downs, though, I mean, you can't start without the guys up front. I mean, those are tough situations. Crowd noise, that front is as good as it gets in the NFL. They throw a ton at you to sort out. So, really, those guys up front, I think, giving us time to make those plays downfield.
What about just in terms of mindset? I mean, I don't know if that varies. If in other situations you might be less inclined to go downfield. Certainly, what you see affects that. But are you looking for that more?
The reads don't change. I mean, yeah, you go about your read out there, you try to make a good decision and throw an accurate football. Like I said, I really do feel like started with the guys up front. It was clean. I felt like I had a lot of time. It was clean back there. They were able to look downfield and really, I think, stretch defenses and make some of those throws because I felt like it was clean for a lot of the day there.
You guys keep winning and we keep having these major injuries each game. I know you don't like to compare, but is this the team that has sort of the most diverse ways of winning? So you sort of absorb those wins or absorb those injuries?
I just feel like that's the NFL. I mean, no team makes it through the year clean. I mean, that's just the way it is. You can try and minimize them, and I think a lot of that is luck, maybe about how you go about your business, practicing and things. But every team deals with injuries, and as hard as they are, and sometimes I think that's the biggest thing, the mentality, right? I mean, it is the next man up. You got to have faith and confidence that the next guy is going to come in and play and play to a high level, and not skip a beat.
Yeah, that was Alex Smith at the podium. And look, if I told you that the Kansas City Chiefs were 5-0, and Alex Smith performance tonight, 29 of 37, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 9 of 16 on third down were the Chiefs, 450 total yards. Kareem Hunt, another 100-yard game. They held the football 38 minutes and 17 seconds. Okay, that's a pretty long time. I think the Houston Texans only had it for 21 minutes and 43 seconds. So that kind of tells you where this team is at, and that's the Alex Smith and his Kansas City Chiefs. So much more to get to, and we got to get to our overreactions. What are we going to be overreacting about tomorrow? What are the headlines going to be about? I know what I'm overreacting about. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. What are we overreacting about tomorrow? Which team are we concerned about? We'll get to that. Your phone calls next here on The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
We got to go to the phone lines. Let me see. Trying to figure out who we got on the phone lines coming up here because it's overreactions and things of that nature. Who we got? Punch up, Dave. Give me one up there because I can't pull it up here. What you got? Hello?
Yeah.
Hey,
hello.
Brennan. Hey, how you doing, man? What's up, Brennan?
Good. So my first overreaction is that with an offensive line who suddenly can't hold anybody back, the most overpaid, overhyped cornerback in the league, and Sean, backup quarterback in right now, my Raiders are going to miss the playoffs.
The Raiders are going to miss the playoffs because of the backup quarterback? Yeah, that's an overreaction. I think a lot of Raider fans are definitely a little, going into the season, a lot of expectations. Here are the Raiders. A lot of people who thought were going to, be able to contend with the New England Patriots. Okay, Ben? So now all of a sudden, they're 5 weeks into the season. Derek Carr is hurt. The Raiders are 2-3, and they're 3 games behind the Kansas City Chiefs already. So already you can't even, you got to catch up 3 games just to get to possibly win the division. Right now, you're looking at a wild card after the hot start by the Chiefs. So unfortunately, if you're a Raiders fan, this is I don't think you saw this coming.
Yeah, I don't think this is a stretch as an overreaction. I think that if you look at the games that were played so far by the Raiders, I think that you beat the Titans, you beat the Jets, but then you lose to a stout Broncos team, you lose to a Redskins team that we're not quite sure yet. But without Derek Carr, you just don't know. You know what they are. They've got the max on the defensive side of the ball. But you look at this schedule as it shakes out. And it's a rough one, man. You've still got to play the Kansas City Chiefs again. You have the New England Patriots. You've got the Denver Broncos. You got to go to the Chiefs, so you play the Chiefs twice. It's an uphill road, and that's where they break the seasons, as coaches always break the NFL seasons into quarters. And that first season to come out, that first quarter coming out 2-2, and now losing the first game of the second quarter of the season, this puts the Oakland Raiders behind.
Yeah, it puts them behind, but I think a lot of people are right now looking up and saying, Okay, what should I do next? What should we do? Because this is, to me, how long will Derek Carr be out? How long will they have to wait and see? He was listed as questionable. I thought he was going to play this week, but he did not. So, unfortunately, this is something that the Raiders are going to have to continue to monitor and move forward. But this isn't the same Raiders team that I thought it was going to be, especially Marshawn Lynch, only 12 carries, 43 yards today. E.J. Manuel did his best. He was 13 of 26 for 159. But our hats have to go off to the Baltimore Ravens. They continue to keep winning. And with a lot of injuries that they've already went through, they are still handling business. Mike Wallace, a big game, 3 catches, 133 yards for them. But what's some of your overreactions for tomorrow, Ben?
Well, my first overreaction, I think, for this weekend's games would be that the Eagles are a lock for the Super Bowl. I think that the Eagles right now are a team that everybody is high on. They've got an exciting young quarterback, and they're a team right now. What are they? They're 4-1. But if you look at some of those games that they've won, they've beat a Chargers team that just beat the worst team in football. So that a one-loss Chargers team. They beat the New York Giants. They haven't really beat anybody. And again, they're another team that you have to look at the schedule for what's coming for those Philadelphia Eagles. You've got to travel to a Carolina Panthers team that is surging. You've got to play the Denver Broncos, the strong team. You've got to play at Seattle, which is, that's uphill no matter what's going on. So I think that everybody that wants to christen Carson Wentz, I think that it's a touch early to christen the Eagles as Super Bowl contenders right now.
Well, I tell you, people are overreacting. They're saying you can do it. But I want the listeners out there, did you know you can take the NFL with you wherever you go? Thanks to the TuneIn app. Well, if you're a fan like me, you really should. No matter where you live or what team you love, TuneIn brings you the home and away call for every game live. Plus, TuneIn also delivers the home and away call for every MLB, NBA, and NHL game, and live calls from more than 140 college teams. Tune in, download the app, and listen live. That's the TuneIn app. Let's take a couple more phone calls before we have to go to break. Let's go to Illinois. Cam in Illinois. He's listening to the Locker Room on 103.5. What's up, Cam?
Hey, man. Enjoy your show.
Appreciate it.
People need to worry about the Pittsburgh Steelers, any Steeler fan. They've let drama into that locker room. I've been a Steeler fan for 40 years, ever since I was old enough to start watching football. And, Ben, he is always acting like I'm going to retire. Oh, woe is me, all the time. Too much drama. If I want to watch drama, I'll watch Lifetime with my wife, and we can just sit there and cry.
Hey, Cam, you know what? I'm going to have to agree with you. That's not an overreaction. I think that may be a truth. I think that's what's going to be a topic of discussion tomorrow, is that what Ben Roethlisberger has done this offseason by hinting at retirement, Antonio Brown and his antics of last week, Le'Veon Bell sitting out training camp, holding out, whatever you want to call it, and then finally this team is just underperforming. I think that's the biggest thing right now. They're in a division that I still believe that they can possibly, they can win that division. I don't put it past them. But for the talent on this team, for them to be sitting at 3-2 right now, to me, it's kind of mind-boggling. I can't wrap my head around it. I really can't. This team is too good, and especially the way the defense has been playing, Ben. Is it more to it, like some drama to it, do you think, in the locker room?
You listen, every season has ebbs and flows. One of the things that college players, as they transition to an NFL locker room, is they struggle. A college player, if you're at a powerhouse, if you're at an Alabama, at an Ohio State, at a Michigan, right, every week you have to win or else. But in the NFL, going undefeated is historic. And so players have to become accustomed to ebbs and flows of seasons. You're not going to win every game. And so I think think that the Steelers are still fine. There's a reason why Vegas still has them pegged as Super Bowl favorites.
Well, they're gonna have to play. They're gonna have to play catch up. I'll tell you that.
But I still believe them. As long as Mike Tomlin is ahead, is in front of that team, and I still believe Ben Roethlisberger. What he said today was just in jest. I don't buy
the Locker Room on ESPN Radio.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The Locker Room here on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and Sirius XM 80. That was 1010XL 92.5 FM. I think that was the Jacksonville Jaguars radio network, one of my former teams, that 1010XL coming up. But yeah, Jacksonville Jaguars put a beat down, and a beat down at home too. For the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was 30-9. Unbelievable. But at the same time, we still have to get into what's been the topic of today. First of all, I'm Kirk Morrison, 8-year NFL veteran. He is Ben Hartsock, the 10-year NFL veteran, 2002 BCS national champion. I just love saying that, by the way. But first of all, just the injuries. We'll get more of an update tomorrow. The injuries on one J.J. Watt, Odell Beckham Jr., the big star injuries today. They're saying reported right now it is a tibial plateau fracture for one J.J. Watt. He'll have more tests done tomorrow. Odell Beckham Jr., his ankle. We don't know if it's going to require surgery or not, but he'll get more tests done tomorrow. So we'll get an update on those two guys tomorrow. As far as the games today, to me, as I look around the league, obviously the Seahawks, they hold serve. They beat the Rams, still telling the Rams their little brother in the division. Ravens over the Raiders today, 30-17. Packers, I mentioned earlier, 35-31 over the Cowboys. Chiefs just finished a game over the Texans. They go 42-34. And then tomorrow, Monday Night Football right here on ESPN. Vikings at Bears. We know tomorrow is the new era in Chicago Bear football. Mitchell Trubisky takes over at quarterback, his first start in the NFL for the Chicago Bears. We'll be hearing that. But another guy that we need to hear from, obviously, is Ben Roethlisberger. He did not have one of his better days. It's one of those things in which I've seen Ben Roethlisberger, and I played against him. I actually have one career interception off of him, too. I got the football still to prove it. But he didn't have one of those. His game today kind of got people thinking. He kind of pondered retirement earlier this offseason. And a game like this, those questions are going to keep coming at you. And so Ben had to answer them. Basically, does Ben still have the magic?
John, what do you think's not happening in the passing game right now?
I'm not playing well enough.
Why is that?
Don't think so, but maybe I am. Maybe I don't have it anymore.
What makes you think?
Ben, do you see it? Not playing well enough.
He's not playing well enough. Well, he needs to play well enough if the Steelers want to have any shot at getting to. This is a team that's supposed to be an AFC championship contender. And right now, we're not getting any of that. We aren't seeing that. Last week, it was the dust-up between, not necessarily a dust-up, but the, sideline antics of one Antonio Brown. He had a better game today, but still not the success that they wanted as a team. And here's a little Antonio Brown after the game in support of Ben Roethlisberger.
He's a competitor. He's a general. And he's going to come to work this week with a lot of intensity. He's going to hit that film room and make everyone around him execute their level of play. He's going to be a sponge, and he's going to bring the best out of all of us, especially after a week like this.
A lot of his teammates rallied around him this week, and Antonio Brown, the sideline, he's a receiver. He wants the ball. Obviously, they won the game last week, but I think a little different tone this week. As they lost the game, the quarterback didn't play well. But Antonio Brown still feels that they're going to rally around their quarterback.
Of course. He's our general. We rally around him, good and bad. Obviously, we know it's going to be more good. It wasn't all his fault today. A couple balls I left out there. I thought I could have jumped and got the last one. And everyone feel that way. We'll get better. It's a team game. He didn't go out there by himself. We went out there collectively with him. We didn't find a way to put points on the board in the red zone, and I'll take responsibility as to the other guys in the locker room.
The Locker Room. That's our show right here. I just love hearing The Locker Room here on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. You can always tweet at us, the tweet1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, at ESPN Radio, at Kirk Morrison, at Ben_Hartsock. To me, they've got some soul searching they have to do. They have to do some soul searching for me, Ben, because I don't know how many times during your 10-year career where you had a quarterback that wasn't playing well and you knew he was an older guy, possibly thinking about retirement, because when you start thinking retirement, you're almost retired, Ben. You know what I mean? Like those thoughts don't just easily go away. And I saw it with Jay Cutler the last couple weeks. He was retired, and you start to see it in his play. Like, do you sure you wanted to play this year? But they got the win today, so I guess those, for the Miami Dolphins did. The Miami Dolphins got their win 16-10 over the Titans. So we're not going to ask him about retirement questions anymore. But with Ben, those questions are going to keep coming up.
Yeah, with Roethlisberger, I just don't buy it yet. I think his response in the press afterward is just frustration. For him to say, "I guess I don't have any more," he's just frustrated by the question. I don't hear that as him saying anything like, "Yeah, I'm 1 foot out the door." You look at what Ben Roethlisberger's legacy is. A legacy is built brick by brick, and his brick wall is tall because he has competed. I mean, the guy's been a warrior, played through injury. His career is full of nothing but gladiator-type performances, and this one is just a black eye. And you look at what it could be, I think this is there's some personality. I think Todd Haley, offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's potential there that there could be a little rift between those two. There's a lot of ego in locker rooms. We saw it last week with Antonio Brown. With throwing the Gatorade bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see those kind of things. And what does Roethlisberger do this week? Throws to him 13 times, gets him 10 receptions, but throws 3 picks trying to get it to him. So this is just a team that's just bumping things up right now. I genuinely believe that Mike Tomlin will have these guys dialed in and peaking at the right moment. I think this is just a bad performance. It's not Ben Roethlisberger falling to pieces. A couple of those picks today were on tipped balls that should have been caught. I still wish we could get stats that show that true interceptions where it's a poor throw versus true interceptions that are tipped at the line of scrimmage or things like that, because it's not all Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, it's not all Ben Roethlisberger, but there's another quarterback in that AFC North. And I know Ben Roethlisberger won't be benched, but there's another quarterback in the AFC North that did get benched. He's the rookie DeShone Kizer. He went 8 of 17 today, 87 yards. He had 1 interception, but it was to a point where head coach Hugh Jackson had to make a decision who gives his team the best chance to win games, and he made that decision. Now, I don't know about the future, but for today, he benched DeShone Kizer. Here's a little Hugh Jackson post-game.
Sometimes the young guys just maybe we're not seeing things as well, so I don't think DeShone's going to fall off the lake. I think he respects my decision. We had a great conversation about it, and we'll go from there. So, you guys are more worried about his confidence than I am that way. This guy is a pro football player, and sometimes young guys, it's not going as well for him, and that's my job. Rather sometimes taking them off and letting them see and breathe a little bit is good, and I think that's what he did. Now, how he feels about that, you guys will have to ask him. But in the heat of it, I can't worry about that. Again, I'm trying to put our team in the best position to win games.
Well, he did say you got to ask DeShone Kizer how he feels about it. Well, this is the reaction. Here's DeShone Kizer and how he felt about getting benched today.
I just am trying to do whatever I can to continue to represent my team and my organization the best way I possibly can, and continue to work as hard as I possibly can to become a better player, to experience some success in this league, because this organization and this city deserves wins. And it's on me as a quarterback of this team to do whatever I can to help us get to those wins.
Is that a lot on the rookie quarterback? You mentioned you were, former Carolina Panther, and you were there when they drafted one Cameron Newton. And coming in, he was a starter right away. There was no learning curve or a bridge quarterback to say, all right, Cam, we're going to, start with this quarterback first and bring you along slowly. He got thrown right into the fire. He was just baptized right away. Like, here you go. Here's the NFL. And they go. But now he had early success. So when you look at both these young you look at DeShone Kizer, his start, and then you look at the start of Cam Newton. Can you compare the two from your time being there?
No, the rookie quarterbacks that thrive aren't asked to do what DeShone Kizer is being asked to do. You look at Ben Roethlisberger started as rookie, and he had Hall of Fame defense and an unbelievable run game. You look at Cam Newton came into a situation with a strong defense and a strong run game. And so what DeShone Kizer is asked to do is he's asked to be Tom Brady when he's not. Would Tom Brady be able to step into the Cleveland Browns franchise and take them to the playoffs? I don't know. If there's anybody else, I don't know if there's anybody else on the planet that could do it. So the frustration that DeShone Kizer is going through is tough, is justified. What I wonder for him is I heard him say, I'm trying to figure out how to lose because he comes from a successful program at the collegiate level. I'm trying to figure out how to be in the NFL. He's got a little bit of that deer in the headlights look, and that can be very much a fork in the road moment for a young player's career where he gets spooked early. It's hard to pull out of that.
You start seeing ghosts early. You start seeing stuff that isn't there, and it's the process. And I understand why you want quarterbacks to wait. I'm all for that. I mean, I was drafted in 2005, but I was there when the Oakland Raiders in 2007 drafted Jamarcus Russell, and I watched him, and I said, man, I don't know about this one yet. You know what I mean? Because you just saw a guy that I don't know if he was mentally prepared to play quarterback. Mentally prepared to be able to do the work that's needed in order for you to be great. And that's why I really marvel at these quarterbacks. I marvel at the Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady's and Peyton Manning's and those guys because I know the commitment that it takes. And some of these younger players have great success in college, but they get to the NFL and they realize fairly quickly this is not the same game. This is a game that's is definitely on a master's level that I don't even think they even recognized going in.
Well, the college level is so much joystick football. Yes. The players on the field are basically just being controlled by coaches on the sideline with all the signs on the sideline and the prairie dog huddles where you don't even have to call a play. The whole team looks to the sideline and looks for the play and calls it there. So you get to that NFL level, and we just heard it with Aaron Rodgers. He's talking fluent doctorate level NFL, and then you come in as a quarterback that is maybe used to having a much more elementary level language being spoken to you, and you're having trouble speaking the language, let alone call the plays.
Yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot that's going on, but you know what? We'll see what happens, and we'll see if Hugh Jackson names a starter in Cleveland this week. But you know what? It is that time. It's that time of the show where we play a little game. A little QB Would You Rather. Yeah, QB Would You Rather. That's next on The Locker Room with Kirk Morrison Ben Hartsock on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The Locker Room here on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. Kirk Morrison, Ben Hartsock, Adam Amin on ESPN Radio there on the call with the Chargers beating. In the teams with no wins, something had to give, and the Chargers coming away with a victory over the Giants 27-22. You know what's always in season? Surprising a friend or loved one with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. 1-800-Flowers has amazing offers on bouquets starting at just $29.99. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. It's right about that time for, what is it, a little QB Would You Rather.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I brought this up a little bit earlier. My favorite game in the whole wide world is Would You Rather. And so I put it on the list for tonight, and I wanted to ask our esteemed host a couple Would You Rathers just to kind of soften the scene. One of my personal favorite Would You Rathers, I'm going to do two of them. First, would you rather for the rest of your life eat your least favorite foods cooked in a sanitary environment, or your favorite foods cooked in a pretty dingy kind of setup.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead in that dingy setup. Because I always say that, what do they say? The heat and cooking actually kills
clean it up.
Yeah, it's going to clean it all up. So I'm going to go with that one.
I'm with you. I would have picked the same one. The second one, all right, this one you got to listen close. Would you rather have to get into the ring and fight a Floyd Mayweather-sized duck or 10 duck-sized Floyd Mayweathers? One Floyd Mayweather-sized duck or 10 duck-sized Floyd Mayweathers?
I'm going to go with the one. One just sounds so much better than 10. So I'd rather go one because I think of old karate movies. And I don't know if I can go with 10 going up against 10 guys. So I'll just go with
I feel like
one.
a duck, you're going to have a reach advantage on the duck, too. Not a lot of reach on that duck wing. So, all right, now we'll jump in. I want to jump in. We're going to do QB Would You Rather. And right out of the gate, let's start with two of the best quarterbacks to play the game right now. Who are you going to take, Matt Stafford or Matt Ryan?
Oh, I'm going to take Matthew Stafford. I think Matt Ryan, he's already the MVP of the league a year ago. I just like Matthew Stafford right now. I know he had a matchup today against Cam Newton. Cam outdueled him, but I look at they don't have a balance of a running game in Detroit that can help him out. I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford because I think you're still putting the team on his back, and look today almost pulling off a victory.
I'm going to go with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, a teammate of mine. I played with him as a rookie. One of the best rookies to ever take charge of a franchise that I have ever been around. And so for that reason, I'm sticking with Matt Ryan. Let's move to the next one. Who are you going to take? You're going to take the Eagles, Carson Wentz, or the Titans, Marcus Mariota? Who you like?
Who do I like? Well, I'm going to go off what I've seen so far. I'm going to go with Carson Wentz only because of what? He's not as injury prone. You know what I mean? Think about it. Marcus Mariota injured last year. He's been injured now this year. Carson Wentz seems to be taking care of his body, seems to be making plays. He's got his team in first place in the NFC East. I'm going to go Carson Wentz. I think he's got more upside right now, and I'm not just being a prisoner of the moment. I just look at what Carson Wentz is doing. I like his durability.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that both of these quarterbacks, I'm real excited about their future. I think they've got the right presence. I think they're guys that are building their legacy. I mentioned it with Roethlisberger. They're building their legacy brick by brick. What I like about Wentz is he's just a little bit more durable. I like the fact that he's a Midwestern guy, Hunts, and so for that reason, I'm going with Wentz.
Okay, squeeze one more in. Squeeze one
more real quick. Cam Newton of the Carolina Panthers or Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks?
I'm going to go with the Super Bowl champion, Russell Wilson. I like what he's doing. I had a chance to see him live today at the Los Angeles Coliseum. He is every bit of David Blaine, all your greatest magicians. He is that and more. Watching him today, I'm going to go with him definitely.
Yeah,
definitely,
I agree.
Definitely. Yeah.
I agree 100%. Wilson with the durability. It's hard to believe because Cam Newton with all of his size, but I'm going with Russell Wilson.
Thanks for listening to the Locker Room Podcast. Make sure to subscribe by clicking the Listen tab on the ESPN app.